Hi everyone, GM. So nice to see you join today's final workshop. I'm super excited. My name is Clara. For those of you who've never met me before, I'm just filling in for Yasin today. So nice to meet you all. I'm going to be inviting our speaker Nino to join us on the stage. Like I said, this is the final workshop of this Educate series. So do stick around to the end where I'll be sharing some more information about what's going to happen next and how you can win some really cool prizes. Hi, Nino. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Nice to have you. I have nothing more to say. I'm just going to let you get straight into it. I know you have a lot of interesting details to share, so feel free to share your screen and get started whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. So as I was introduced by Clara, my name is Nino, and I'm a CPO at the project called Apillon. First of all, I'm going to take you through the short presentation, and then we're going to jump into the demo. At the very end, I'm going to show you some of the ideas for the hackathon and how you guys can architecture the solution for those of you who are interested in entering the hackathon. And last 15 minutes, I kind of predicted that there will be some questions or maybe technical questions or details. So I'm going to allow that time for you guys to ask me something or if you have anything specific. I am working on one screen, so if you guys are entering questions in the chat, I might not be able to see that. But I will check every now and then and answer them as we go along. So first of all, what is Apillon, how we started the company, etc. I would like to say a few words around that. So when we started Apillon, I think it was like 2 years ago, I joined the team and I had this, task to figure out how do we utilize Polkadot and its parachains into something that would be a Web3 development platform, which would make development on those parachains much easier. So because now you guys already went through the few of the workshops from the specific parachains, like Crust, Fala, and Kilt, you guys already probably figured out that these parachains that are living on Polkadot, each on their own chain, are actually very, very use case specific. They are like business services looking from the perspective of, outside, because if you go to Crust, you're going to be handling storage, right? And they're doing storage really well, and they're highly focused on storage, and they can do magic there, right? Then if you look at Kilt, you can see, all right, Kilt is working with DIDs, decentralized identifiers, which is a W3C standard. And this can be pivoted out into an authentication service. You can build a way for users to sign up and sign in using Kilt, which is a typical thing a developer would need when building something. And then on the third parachain, Fala, we of course have the compute. So general use compute, which is decentralized and trustless in this case, can be very good when building a fully decentralized dApp or mobile dApp in this case, because you do not have to necessarily talk to centralized cloud providers and do your magic there. So long story short, these are the first 3 parachains Apillon has started to integrate and transform them into different services. When looking at the field outside of Apillon, we figured out that if today a developer who is still living in Web 2 wants to build something in Web 3, there is a lot they have to do. It's not that easy. There is a lot of tooling. There are a lot of documentation. There is a lot of things happening on the protocol level, but not so much on the application layer, where things should be made easier. And this is where Apillon saw its opportunity to start providing these services. So pre-Apillon, we know developers had to spend massive time investment and of course maintenance some of the languages used by blockchain protocols or blockchain solutions can be difficult, and they have to be relearned. They cannot just be extended from what Web2 developers are already using. If a specific parachain like Crust is providing storage, Crust knows nothing about Fala or knows nothing about Kilt. They are interoperable, so they can talk to each other with transactions, but this also has to be manually built up, and it's quite tricky. And of course, you need specific skills or experience. And lastly, smart contracts audits can be very complicated and expensive. So if we are to provide a library of smart contracts which are already audited and safe and bulletproof, this can really, speed things up. So looking from the layers perspective, right? So if we look at Polkadot and its core, and I think Bill Laboon touched on this topic really well on the first workshop, Polkadot is actually layer 0. So if Polkadot is running without any parachains, it does not have really a functionality that users could use. It's just a layer that enables parachains to live on. So this is very specific when compared to Ethereum, a little bit less specific when compared to Cosmos, which shares the sentiment. But the thing is that on these layers, before we come to layer 5, where an application layer actually lives, there is a huge gap between layer 1 or layer 2 even, and then on the layer 5 application layer, there are no tools which would allow developers to quickly abstract away whatever is happening on a parachain level or on Ethereum level, and this is where Apillon lives. Another way to look at Apillon could be if we're comparing Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, we always had some sort of tooling which helped developers build faster, or even help developers, automate some of the things, which basically abstracted a lot of configuration in the background. So for those of you who are old enough here, probably remember cPanel. If you guys ever installed WordPress, you know how it goes. You go into cPanel, you create a database, you create FTP users, you upload the files, and then you proceed with the configuration. So cPanel, in this case, enabled millions of websites which were built by either developers with 0 to no skills or even non-developers. So that was the role of cPanel. When we look at Web 2, there is the offering is much wider. We have AWS, we have Google Cloud, we have a lot of different services which abstract away the backend. But where we want to be compared to is most likely Firebase or Supabase. So there are similar services which basically abstract away backend and allow front-end developers with their knowledge to immediately start producing fully functional production-ready apps. So,
sorry, Nino, can I interrupt? Are you meant to be sharing your screen?
Yes.
Okay, we cannot see it. It must have disappeared for some reason.
Okay.
Now I think it's loading again. There we go. Now we can see it. Okay.
Okay. Was it without screen from the very beginning?
I think it was there for the beginning.
Okay.
And I think it seems like what you went through was pretty, like, we could understand what you were talking about anyway, so I think it's okay.
It's no problem. I'm gonna show the screens just for those of you who are then looking through the video. This one is pretty self-explanatory. I went through the pre-Apillon pain points and how we solved them, and this is where I'm talking about layers, right? So layer 0 and then Apillon on top of that, and the abstraction of layer 1 or layer 2. These are the, this is the view of where Apillon wants to sit. And this is the, the slide which I was talking about right now. So we have Web 1, cPanel, Web 2, Firebase, and Web 3, Apillon. So hopefully, if now the screen is working, we can go forward. So if you are approaching Apillon, there are several ways of building or how you can achieve stuff on the blockchain or within the Web3. And we are targeting different kind of developers. So if you are a developer with a lot of skills and you understand specifically what you need, in this case, you would be using Apillon services, which you can turn on. So we have services like Web3 storage, Web3 hosting, Web3 compute, Web3 authentication, which every service then leads to a specific parachain, like I mentioned at the beginning. Now, the thing is, if you are building a dApp and you know specifically you're going to need just the storage part, you go to services, you turn on the storage, and you can start immediately working. These are Apillon services. Good thing is, Apillon services are also available via APIs or SDKs. Obviously, we have documentation. We also have a CLI. But then we also have pre-built solutions, which are more driven towards people with no experience or no coding abilities, and they just want to execute a specific use case. And we're going to touch on the pre-built solutions a little bit later when I'm going to be doing the demo within the dashboard. But to put it plainly, this is one of our latest features. And they're quite cool. I hope they will be cool for you as well. But yeah, we'll look into them in the demo. So yeah, it's demo time now. So let's jump into Apillon dashboard. So for those of you who didn't create your account on Apillon yet, you're welcome to join. When you create an account, you immediately get a free business model, or how to say, a free plan with some of the credits available. We feel that in the freemium plan, you will get more than enough to put your dApp into production. And if you start scaling with that dApp, at some point you might outgrow the freemium plan. But as it is right now, and the amount of users who are adopting these dApps, we believe you will be able to achieve quite a lot with the freemium plan. But in general, we also offer then different other plans if you are scaling your dApp already. First things that you have to do, so we provide different projects, so you can create multiple projects within your dashboard. You can also assign different roles or access to those projects, so you can work as a team within Apillon with specific rights. Once you have specific services already turned on, you can see project resources. So you can see how much of the storage you are using, how much of the hosting, how many collections you have created. So it's an overview of what's happening with your project right now. Going back to difference between Web3 services and pre-built solutions, which I was talking about before. In Web3 services, we have, like I said before, we have storage, where basically whatever you build within storage will result by going to Crust, and then Crust will pin this to IPFS, and then we will serve this via our own IPFS gateway. We are very specialized into storage, Web3 storage service on Crust. We spent, I think, it will soon be 2 years since this service was out in production. In fact, this was the first service we created on the production. So it's quite polished, and we put a lot of efforts into the infrastructure to keep this running and to keep the load speeds on our IPFS gateway optimal. So now that you guys already know how Crust works, you had a workshop, you can now see the other perspective, how we are tackling storage on top of Crust. As you can see on the right side, we have ability to create buckets, which is the way how we're mimicking existing cloud services. We want you to feel at home when you come to Apillon and basically operate over buckets. Buckets are not officially supported on Crust. They do have buckets, but they're kind of different. So we are abstracting this away, and we have our own code, which then enables you to have this specific logic. Hosting service, we'll also touch upon this during the demo, is also derived from Crust, because basically what's happening with hosting is files of your static websites are going to IPFS, they get pinned there, and then files are being served over our IPFS gateway. And we are, on top of that, we are adding the ability to have SSL certificates so that your website works through HTTPS. And we also support domains. Again, very simple way of handling this. Basically, you create a new website and you start pushing the files of your website into this specific bucket. We also have NFTs. So with NFT collections, we have a specific way of thinking. So if you want to have your own standalone NFT collection where people are able to come to your domain and start minting the NFTs, this is the approach of how you would do it. I'm going to quickly go over NFT collection deployment as part of the demo, and I'm going to also show you how you can utilize our pre-built template, which is open sourced, and it's written in React or Vue. For those of you who are familiar with that, you are able to do your standalone NFT collection in a matter of minutes, and we're going to do this demo right now. So on the first step of creating an NFT collection, we're basically asking you, where do you want to store the metadata, right? If you proceed by storing the metadata to Apillon, what's going to happen in the background, actually, we're going to create a new storage bucket, which is a NFT metadata storage bucket. This is going to happen automatically. And we're going to take your CSV files and images, and we're going to compile JSON formatted files and push them into that bucket. And as the NFT collection gets deployed, the NFT's metadata is then served from the IPFS. So basically, we are in this deployment, we utilize two of our services automatically, so you don't have to configure anything. If you already have metadata of your existing collection somewhere, and you just want to deploy this collection on either Moonbeam or Astar, you can click I already have it online and point towards your metadata on a decentralized server, and you can proceed with the NFT collection creation. Next step, so right now we are supporting 3 chains. One of them is testnet, so basically 2 chains, Moonbeam and Astar. And we're going to be deploying to Moonbase, which is a testnet, just to go quickly over the the flow. All right, so we are now on Moonbase, and first things we have to do is basically describe the collection that we're building. Now, the cool thing is you can also put collection logo and collection cover image, which are then used in the website template I'm going to show you, but we're going to skip that and really quickly do a test so we can then proceed with other things. But there is also a question of generic or nestable. So there are 2 types that we support out of the smart contracts for NFTs. Generic one is an ERC 721. So this will behave like any other NFT collection deployed obviously to Moonbeam, which is also EVM compatible. So this is exactly the same as you would be doing on Ethereum. But if you select nestable, this is basically a functionality or an added functionality on top of that, which was built by Remark, and it allows you to basically nest NFT ownership under each other. So you can have a parent NFT and then multiple NFTs nested under that specific parent NFT. And this is all happening on chain. And this is very, very cool if you're building a game and you imagine you have a character which then has different items equipped. You could potentially use this nestable collection type to sell your character together with all the equipment equipped to this NFT because of the nesting, and this could happen on chain. All right, so if we proceed now, we have some parameters that you can set. These are, again, very typical parameters. The collection can be limited or unlimited. We're going to create a limited supply with NFTs which aren't revocable and aren't soul-bound. If you are unsure what a specific parameter means, you can always hover and see a little bit of details, or then help yourself with some of the searching online to figure stuff out. We also have good videos and documentation where this is described in details. Royalties address is basically a wallet where royalties drop. So if this NFT, which I'm creating, is minted by someone and then resold again, this is the amount of royalties which will land on this address. It's worth mentioning that royalties fees are set in percentage value, right? So this means I'm going to get 5% of every further trade of this minted NFT. We can also turn on drop, which basically allows us to set a specific price. We can also set a specific time. So basically, this allows you to, let me see, this allows you to publish the NFT collection to your website, but the minting is not possible until drop timestamp is met. So let me configure this really quickly. All right, and what we can also do is reserve some of those NFTs for ourselves, right? So we are the owner of this NFT collection. There is no sense in us paying for those NFTs. So if I reserve 50 NFTs out of 139, I will be able to use Apillon dashboard to pre-mint those NFTs, and I will also show you how this looks like. So if we now proceed, this is the preview of what we are deploying. It's going to spend just 1 credit out of all we have. And now the collection is getting deployed in the background. So now we have ability to either put in all the NFTs at once. This is the right option. So I'm going to be using a CSV file which has 139 NFT metadata already included and 139 images. But if you're creating a collection where you want to go one by one and you want to skip the CSV file, well, then you can do it one by one and enter the data manually for every single NFT. So if I proceed here, first I have to choose the CSV file. So I have this folder where the CSV file is already created. I have 2 attributes available for these NFTs. One is skin color and one is highlight color. I'm going to confirm those attributes. And at this point, I have to show, I have to upload all the images for these NFTs. So I'm going to select them. And this is the preview of what we are creating. So we can now see an NFT, we have a name, we have a description, we have image name, and of course the additional parameters. We can also review this in a different way. So it's either a table view or a card view. So it's just a neat thing for a better experience if you want to review things. And once you're ready, you can start deploying. So now this will take a minute or 2 in order to get deployed. If I go now into NFTs, this will appear as something that is already getting deployed. Once this is done, we could already use this, but in order to speed things along, I have already prepared one collection, which is exactly the same today. So we will be working with this specific collection. So we have a collection here, and this is the contract address. If we look at the Moonbase Explorer, we can see that this was minted today. So the contract was created today, and I was already minting some NFTs as an owner, and then I was minting NFTs as a visitor. I will now show you how this looks like. But in general, what we need at this point is contract address. This is the most important thing. And we also have to know that we deployed to Moonbase. So once we have these two parameters, what you can do is go to Apillon GitHub and open an NFT template React. We also have an NFT template view, which is basically a standalone NFT website that you can pull down. And instructions are basically here. But what you have to do is once you clone this to your local environment, this is how it looks like. So basically you get an NFT template React. You can see in the source that we have different components and all the logic for minting with JS already included. The only thing you need to touch basically is environment file. And what you have to include here is your contract address, right? So if we look back to what I already deployed today, this is the contract address, and I included it here. And because we're using Moonbase, I uncommented this specific line. So this was commented, and because we're using Moonbase, I uncommented this just to get the chain ID. So once this is saved, I can go into terminal and do an npm install. This is also very typical for anyone who is building in Web 2. And basically it goes with the instructions. So now first I do npm install, then I do npm run dev. So I have this already running on the local host, and we can review this. So this is what you get, right? So the intention here isn't specifically for you guys to create NFT collection, which then goes to OpenSea, but instead you will get a personalized website with your domain that anyone can visit and mint NFTs. A good comparison would be, for example, you want to sell some product, like a physical product, you have two options. You can either go to Amazon and sell on a common marketplace where everyone is selling and buying, or you can do your own Shopify store and start driving traffic towards that store. So in this case, we are more similar towards Shopify, or more similar towards an example where you would be offering your NFTs on your specific website. So this is now the this template. And if I connect my wallet, the MetaMask should pop up, but I'm already connected to it, yes. So let's see what will happen now. All right, so now what happened in this specific case is my MetaMask was already connected, so I didn't have to sign. The address is loaded here, and this template quickly figured out that I already own 3 NFTs from this specific collection. So we can see the NFTs are minted here, and I could mint potentially another NFT. And we are using Moonbase developers tokens, which you can get on a faucet just to test this out. But minting is now in progress, right? So the next thing, very important, going from this step. So the intention here is for you guys to get this template and modify it any way you like. Basically, because the logic is already in. So if you are able to write CSS, you can change the colors, you can change the whole structure. What you could even do is have a game or a specific task for user to complete. Once the task is completed, minting happens as a reward, right? So this could be used in thousands of different ways. You don't have to follow the template. The template is here just to make stuff easier for you, and you don't have to think about the blockchain stuff, but everything else you can customize in React. The question now is, how do we put this website on Apillon's hosting, right? So we mentioned before, we do have a Web3 hosting service, Apillon.io. IO website. So our main website is hosted from our own Web3 hosting service, which means the files are pinned over across an IPFS and then served over our IPFS gateway to the world. And I also have a specific case here, which I did today. So if we follow the instructions on this NFT template React, and we did npm install and we did npm run dev locally, where we can see stuff going on, the final thing we need to do is npm run build. This command specifically builds the React project into a static website, which I already did. So we can look into the React template. And because I ran the build, we get this folder. It's called dist as a distribute or distribution, I guess. And what I can do is basically go to hosting, capture all these files, and drag and drop them here. So what's now going to happen is these files are going to land on our server. And once they are up, we can do deploy to staging. Proceed with website deployment. So these files are now going to go to staging, and you're going to get immediately a preview from the IPFS. So this is served from our IPNS Nectar node, and I can now preview how this website looks like. So if I'm happy with the preview, I can then deploy it to production. So I already deployed to production today, so we will also fast forward this just to squeeze in as much information I can. And as you can see here, I have a domain connected already to this specific deployment, which I did today at 11:55. So what we could do now is basically open Nino.Ninja website, and this is what we get. So basically, coming from a pre-made template with React, manually deploying NFT collection, building a React project into a static website, hosting it over Apillon, connecting to the domain, and we have a fully standalone NFT minting website available. And if I connect my MetaMask, I can immediately start using it. Going back to the NFT collections, and we have, all right, so the collection we started before, which was called Encode, is now deployed and ready, but we are still using this previous collection. So if I open up this collection, I can always go to actions and mint. So this is where the 50 reserved NFTs come into play. So now I could take any wallet, any EVM compatible wallet, maybe like from some of you guys even, put it in and say, just mint, I don't know, 5 NFTs and request this. So you can also manually trigger minting from this specific collection. Otherwise, a user would have to come to this specific website on your domain and start minting. So yes, you could set a different price for minting. You could even earn money by allowing users to pay for minting, which then comes to your target wallet. So this is the idea of NFTs. Why I displayed this is more connected to the fact, over displaying this specific flow, I wanted to show you how Apillon is thinking in general. So even though we know we're going to be working in WeTransfer clone or in the hackathon mainly on the storage part, I just wanted to show that most of our services also come with some sort of template from our GitHub that you can immediately start using if you are familiar with Web 2. And this is the logic we're constantly following. So if you have some questions or you would like to find some pre-made template and you're unable to, please reach out and we're going to point you to the right direction. Okay, going back to the storage. If you remember before, when we were creating an Encode NFT, I mentioned that there will be a bucket automatically made. So now we can see Encode bucket. If I open it up, you can see that there are two folders. One is metadata, and this includes JSON files automatically generated from the CSV file, which I uploaded, and in the other folder, images. Obviously, there are images which we uploaded. And this is what then goes on-chain and is burned into NFT permanently. If we go back onto the storage and we say, let's open up a bucket and let's do the upload. And specifically, I would like you to be, very careful when I do this. If you are interested in participating on the hackathon. So I have a specific image. And if you imagine how WeTransfer usually looks like, is you take a file, it could be a zip file, you drag and drop it somewhere, right? You upload it, and we are now uploading this in the background to the IPFS over Crust. I know I'm repeating this a lot, but yeah, so now this file is pending. Thing is, what are we going to receive back once this is done? We're going to receive this kind of a link. And if I share this link to someone, the file will immediately start to get downloaded, right? So this is a very important information from the perspective of building WeTransfer clone, is that the only thing you really need to do from the client side is basically understand how to push files into a bucket, which can easily be done over Apillon API or SDK. And I'm going to show you some of the parts of the SDK. So if you go to wiki.apillon.io and you go into the build section, you can see we have documentation for our API, which comes in handy if you're building directly from React or Vue. But if you will have your own backend, you can utilize the SDK. And if we go into storage, we have a lot of usage examples already pre-written. And as you can see here, you can list buckets, you can upload from specific folder, you can list objects, you can list files, and every functionality you need is already here. So essentially, for WeTransfer clone, what you need to achieve is have an account on Apillon, have a project, create a bucket in storage, and from that point on, you basically just push the files in, and you're going to get URLs in return. So this is now still pending. Let's see what happened. All right, so this file is now already uploaded to IPFS, and if I click it, if I click on the URL which we received back, we can see the image is immediately working. So if I were now to share this link with anyone, they could download this specific file, right? So this is the functionality that enables most of the WeTransfer logic. But of course, you can achieve that over SDK. We also support IPNS methods, and of course, then for NFTs, identity computing, there are a lot of examples which we are unable to squeeze in 1 hour. But yeah, this is the demo I wanted to make. So going forward, I've included the links to our API and SDK and documentation in this presentation, which I'm going to share with you guys after. So you don't have to look for that. Storage is already here. And I also wanted to kind of touch base on the potential hackathon approach, which I already mentioned a little bit before. But in general, what you have to do is configure storage, receive API key plus a secret, which is which you are able to do here. So if I now go into API keys, I can generate a new key. This is, again, a very typical process like you would see on any cloud provider or any development platform. And this is what you use then to connect to your dApp. So yeah, Once you have that, then you have to make a choice, right? You can either run your own backend, because obviously API secret cannot be put into the client side due to the security reasons. So you can run your own backend and utilize Apillon SDK on that backend to basically provide storage logic. But we will also be accepting submissions who basically do the calls over API from the client side. Even though this might be unsecure, we will be accepting that, and we will add additional logic if needed, or we will help you out to achieve security on this end. And in this case, you are relying on Apillon API, not the SDK. The last thing I wanted to mention regarding Hackathon, as you guys know, there were several workshops before me, which was mostly Kilt, Fala, and Crust. So for extra features within the Hackathon or WeTransfer clone, what you can do is maybe utilize Kilt DIDs in a specific way. So if you find a way how to implement DIDs into WeTransfer, maybe as an authentication method, you have two paths. You can work with Kilt directly. I'm pretty sure they did a really good job on explaining how Kilt works and how you can utilize it. Or you could go into Apillon authentication service and follow these instructions. Now, here we do not have a fancy UI yet, but we do have all the code, all the front-end code already written and on our GitHub, which basically allows you for users to sign up with their email, receive confirmation email, which once they click it is attested on over Kilt, and the ID credentials are issued to the user. So we are able to do that if you follow these instructions. Second thing, you could utilize Fala compute. For example, Fala is really, really cool if you want to encrypt specific files, right? So if I'm sharing something over WeTransfer and I want to encrypt that, Fala could do that because of their trusted execution environment. You also have a guarantee that no one saw the contents of that file before it got encrypted. And again, you have two paths here. You can start directly on Fala. I know Josh did some of the demos and of course explained how Fala works. So you could tackle this directly with Fala, or you can also use our Schrodinger's NFT, which is available in computing. So our computing service goes directly to Fala. Our authentication service executes stuff on Kilt. And we also have a social, it's not a social service, but it is, which basically allows you to deploy grill chat really fast, and you can get a decentralized chat like this simply by deploying it with few clicks. And you also get a code for this widget, which you just include into your project, and the chat is there. I'm not saying that this is mandatory. I'm just trying to show what we have. And the last extension, which would bring this WeTransfer clone really close to the original, would be email sending functionality, right? So in WeTransfer, what typically happens is you upload the file and you enter the email of the user you want to share this with, and an email is sent to that user with a link. So potentially, I just brainstormed a little bit here. This is not mandatory, or no one will be grading this specifically in the hackathon. I just wanted to expand the horizons and maybe show you guys how you can achieve the additional functionality on that WeTransfer clone over either directly talking to the parachain or utilizing some of the narrow scope that we have for that specific parachain. So yeah, I would say this concludes what I had in mind really fast. Maybe I should touch the pre-built solutions a little bit. So because I promised at the beginning, I will take 2 minutes to explain this new beautiful thing we have called pre-built solutions. So if Web3 services are targeted towards developers who know exactly what they are doing and who are capable of, controlling these services over APIs or SDKs, pre-built solutions that take one step forward in the abstraction, right? So let's imagine you have zero knowledge of development and you would like to do proof of attendance NFTs. In this case, you could follow our GitHub. Okay, this one is not open yet. I'll look for one different one. So if you go to our GitHub, you can see Apillon pre-built solution, proof of attendance. Now, what this thing is, it's basically a Docker image, a Docker container that has everything ready. So we have a backend with SQL, Express, and what else? I think, yeah, these are the two things. And we also have the front end, which also includes the admin. So if you are able to run this Docker image, you will get the full functionality to run proof of attendance simply by clicking. And this will automatically connect to your NFT collection. And these NFTs will get distributed to users who are scanning the QR codes. We also included the QR code generator. We included the website where users are claiming those NFTs. So what I'm trying to say is pre-built solutions are completely included packages, which allows you to run either proof of attendance or whitelist NFT claim or NFT email sign-up airdrop or NFT email airdrop out of the box without any coding knowledge. So if anyone is specifically interested in pre-built solutions, please reach out and I will take more time to show and showcase that at some other time. But right now, I think we have to conclude this if I am to accept any questions from you guys. So thank you very much for listening, and any questions are now more than welcome.
Yeah, so there were quite a few questions coming in throughout. So I'm just going to go I think it might be easiest to go to the back of the chat.
Yes, I'm doing that. Okay, so is the hackathon going to be based only in Polkadot and our preferred backend? And we are also required to use Apillon. Basically, no. You can use anything you want. The idea here was to introduce you guys into Polkadot. We selected specific parachains that we believe could enable very good WeTransfer clone fundamentals. And I cannot go into specific models of grading. There will be some checks in the grading where we'll be checking whether you're using this solution or that solution, but it's not mandatory. It's also not mandatory to use Apillon. You can go directly to the parachains and utilize their SDKs if you wish to do so. So yeah, it is not mandatory to go in a specific path. Yeah, that's the answer. In terms of hosting, who owns the hardware servers? Okay, so this is best explained by Crust. So if you really want to go deeper in, how is the whole infrastructure of IPFS handled, I believe this was explained really well over a Crust workshop. But to put it really briefly, IPFS works in a way where people run their nodes and files on that node are then shared across IPFS. But IPFS has no ability to match people who want to store files and people who want to offer their infrastructure. So that's why Crust came on top of IPFS. That's why they are called Crust, because they are bringing in the blockchain logic, which connects supply and demand, right? So you have people who supply storage on IPFS and they're running the nodes. And then on the other side, we have demand, people like developers who are storing stuff over Apillon, which then pays with Crust to pin those files on the IPFS nodes across the world. Good thing is that if you remember before, when I dragged and dropped that tiny picture logo of Apillon, this is now on Crust, and they usually do around 15 to 20 replicas of this specific file across 15 nodes across the world. So right now, this is hosted from 15 different nodes around the world, and we don't know where they are. If one of those nodes is to shut down, there are still 14 replicas left, and Crust starts to create new replicas immediately. So this is, to put it really briefly, and the hardware servers are basically owned by different people who are coming into Crust providing storage. What is the difference between Apillon and IPFS? Yeah, the difference is Apillon is just how to say, a simple gateway to put files on IPFS. That's it. Like if you want to put files on IPFS yourself, you can run your own IPFS node. You can put files there, and they will be available in the IPFS network. But on the other hand, if you come to Apillon, you can drag and drop, and it's done. The result is completely the same. File once on IPFS is completely decentralized, and minimum pinning over Crust is 6 months, but you can extend that up to 100 years. So yeah, the difference is in the logic. We're using IPFS in the background, but the result is basically the same as if you would set up your own IPFS infrastructure. David, okay, so David said it seems like Apillon integrates IPFS plus NFT storage plus Fleek all in one. Yes, that's true. So as you are creating an NFT collection, we put this metadata on IPFS, and we also have the IPFS gateway, which then serves these files to HTTPS. Can we only mint on Moonbase? No, so right now we have 3 options. Moonbase is a testnet of Moonbeam, which means you can also deploy on production, so on Moonbeam, and we also have Astar. And Astar with ZK EVM and the transferability also has the ability to go into Ethereum. We will be expanding this in the future, but right now we are very concentrated on the Polkadot ecosystem and covering parachains, mostly from the Polkadot. Are these going to be on OpenSea after minting? No. So in this specific case, OpenSea has decided against supporting NFTs which are coming from Polkadot. As far as I know, this happened like years ago, so maybe they're now changing their mind. But in general, there are different similar marketplaces such as Moonbeams or Paras on Astar, which can support these NFT collections out of the box. What happens if the deployment fails? Okay, so if the deployment fails, we try again and again to redeploy it. But there is still possibility that deployment permanently fails. In this case, you will see that the collection was not deployed and you will have to repeat the process. But I can gladly say that this is a really, really rare case. If it happens, it's usually due to the fact that we are either running out of the specific asset in our custody. So what I didn't mention before is when you are deploying on all these different parachains, we are the ones who are doing underlying payments. So you guys never have to buy Crust tokens. You never have to buy Glimmer tokens for Moonbeam, Astar tokens for Astar, Kill tokens for Kilt, or Phala tokens for Phala. We are the ones who are concentrating all these tokens into one point. And as deployments are happening, we are doing the underlying payments. So yeah, I would say if the deployment fails, it's usually due to the fact that there was thousands of deployments over the night. We didn't manage to fill our wallets and the deployment fails, but technically this happens really, really rarely. Okay, so if we build a dApp using React, will it still work if we host it via Apillon? Yes, this is achieved by doing this. So let's go back to our React template. In React, you have the ability to do npm run build. Once you do this, you get what I showed before. It's basically a dist folder where the whole website is basically turned into static website. So you can take these files and deploy them to our hosting, and it will work as I showcased before. Okay, someone answered that. Can these images be hidden, like in Piñata? If you want to achieve some sort of functionality which would, either display or hide this NFT or the image, it really depends what you mean by hiding. If you're so if you're thinking in a case that this file now gets removed from the IPFS, the answer is no, unless you wait 6 months. So everything you put to IPFS over Crust has a minimum pinning time of 6 months. If you don't extend the lease after 6 months, the payment for people who are providing storage doesn't go through, and this file is slowly removed. It will remain in some of the caches for a while, but then the file will go away. If you're talking about business logic applied to this file where you have ability to show or hide it, this has to be custom built. You could use Fala compute to achieve such functionality. Most likely you would have to encrypt it and then put it on IPFS and then have some ability to show or hide it. The second possibility could be utilizing IPNS, which is basically a name service for IPFS. I'm sorry if this is too short answer for you, but I'm trying to say it could be possible. If you're interested in that, reach out and we'll take time to provide you with some more examples. They have an option like submarine, and images are made private on the local IPFS network. Okay, I believe I happen across network for storage, so I guess they are public by default. Yes, this is true. So all the files you put there are public by default. We are building encryption service for that and it's in our roadmap, so it will be coming in the next few months. I cannot talk about specific judging criteria. I can say that judges will be mostly from the teams that held workshops, but what we are kind of hoping for are solutions or projects which basically focus on the UI and focus on the experience. As I showed before, there is not a lot of logic that you have to implement in order to push files to IPFS. This is pretty trivial, I would say. Anyone who ever developed something before can achieve this in, 15 minutes. So we are thinking about the final product. So we are hoping that we will get many applications with finished and polished UI instead of just, a framework UI. And maybe a good idea would be to think degen or to think, specifically into how this could be made more fun, how this could be made more Web3, how this could cater towards the degen communities, what could be additional benefits. I showed you that you can create an NFT collection, maybe for people who are constantly uploading stuff. On the 100th upload, they can get an NFT, which is very cool, stuff like that. So we are not just trying to build a WeTransfer clone with a different infrastructure. We are also thinking about Web3 and how to build synergies with different services. So this is what I have in mind, but of course you guys know best, and I'm sure we're going to get really cool submissions there.
I also wanted to just say that I'll share both the hacker pack and the submission form in the chat. If you go to the hacker pack, you can read a bit more about what the challenges are. There's an FAQ section where there are common questions asked that you'll get an answer to, and you'll get kind of all the workshop recordings. Everything that you need will basically be in there. So make sure to kind of save that, have that handy. And then the submission form is also just linked there so that you guys have it.
Yes. Clara, before I go forward, do we have time to extend and answer all the questions?
Yeah, go ahead. As soon as, or as long as you're kind of okay with that, I'm happy to stay on a bit longer.
Of course. Thank you. All right. So the question in terms of hosting, yes, you got the answer, and this is completely right. There is no, so this IPFS is very static. There is nothing you can run or compile there. You could help yourself by utilizing Fala, which has the compute capabilities, and also with latest development, they kind of understand Node.js inside trusted execution environment. So if you are thinking, how to make this website less static and more dynamic, but still within decentralized Web3 context, you should rely on Fala. If you're thinking in this direction and if this appeals to you, reach out. We will connect you to Fala team. They're amazing, and they can even do some custom stuff or help you out to achieve this. If we have a domain name, they will add it. If you have a domain name, you can add it yourself. Basically, you go to hosting, you will have your website here, and you click on the production and click configure domain, and you will get everything you need to configure your domain yourself. So yeah. What else? I saw the prices in the website, so I guess it's a private company. No open source. Yeah, I mean, in this situation, both is true. We are a private company, but Apillon is fully open sourced. So the whole dashboard, everything you saw there is open sourced on our GitHub. So you could run your own instance of Apillon if you want to. I think I answered all the questions. Does anyone else have a last question or anything?
Yeah, I think that might be it then. Now everyone's just saying thank you. It seems like everyone enjoyed it a lot, and based on the amount of questions we had as well, it seems like people were really engaged. So thank you so much, Nino. That was a really, really nice way to kind of wrap up this Educate series. It's a bit bittersweet, but it's been really, really good, and we still have the most exciting part, some would say, left. So we're all looking forward to your submissions, and I hope that you guys will have a really fun time playing around with the tech. If you haven't started building yet and kind of exploring your projects, then I'd say please start working on the bounty today if you haven't already. Everything that you need, all the information is in the hacker pack that I sent a little bit earlier. I'll send it again now. And thank you once again, Nino, for this really, really good workshop and for being very patient in answering everyone's questions.
No problem. Thank you for hosting me. For anyone who feels that I touched something but I didn't go too deep into it, I'm available for that. And we have some demo videos as well available for other specific things. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and good luck, everyone. And do feel free to reach out to Yasin or even me if you need any help with anything. So have a good rest of your day, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.